It's the Tim Constantine Show.
He is the former Attorney General of the United States. Please welcome Alberto Gonzales. Judge, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Good to be with you.
How are things in Tennessee today?
Things are great. We've got a bright, sunny day. We've got some good music here.
I'm coming to visit just for the music. Hey, immigration reform. One of the things that has bothered me with the Republican Party is they seem to be pandering. When I see John McCain or others saying, well, we've lost the Hispanic vote, so we must allow immigrants in, I'm thinking, isn't the issue just a little more complex than that?
Oh, this is probably one of the most complicated issues that the Congress is going to have to deal with because, as I've said many times, it touches families, it touches national security, it touches foreign policy, it touches economic policy. It really affects the very essence of who we are as a country. And there's so many difficult details that have to be worked out. So what we've heard from congressional leaders is a fine start. It's easy. I mean, it's easy to lay out basic broad principles, but it's when we get into the discussions about the details that things are going to get really difficult, and that's when we're going to see, whether or not we have statesmen in Washington or whether or not we have politicians in Washington.
Help me understand the issue better than I do, because I tend to look at it very simply. I have a brother-in-law who immigrated to the United States. He followed the rules. He did everything the way he was supposed to, and after the appropriate process and time, he became a citizen of the United States. Why should it be different for those who snuck under the gun, the children of those who came in? Why are the rules going to be a little bit different?
Well, let's be honest. There is always discretion by law enforcement with respect to the prosecution of people who break the law. So the fact that someone came into this country doesn't mean that forever they're bad guys, they're barred, they can never have any kind of absolution. So the truth of the matter is, from time to time, I mean, it happens. People break the law, and they may pay a penalty. They may have to wait. They have to serve time or something. But at the end of the day, the government makes this decision about discretion and enforcement of the law. I do agree. I think you've raised a good point that as we discuss this issue, we're going to have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, have we broken the trust we've had for would-be immigrants who have waited patiently outside of our borders and have followed the rules? So as we debate whether or not to provide some kind of legal status to these individuals who did not follow the rules, I think that's a very important question. Republicans are clearly motivated by the fact that we got shellacked in November, and I wish that as a matter of good policy, Republicans had looked at this some years ago and viewed it as a good thing to pursue as a matter of policy. But no matter the reason why they're at the table, it appears they're at the table, and I'm hopeful that we'll have some kind of positive resolution on behalf of the American people.
Now, if this moves ahead, if we have immigration reform, whether it's the DREAM Act that we've all seen over the last couple of years or some other form, how is that likely to impact politics? We talk about the Republicans and how they have kind of been kicking and screaming on this in the past. So if they suddenly give in now, are they likely to see a change in fortune with the Hispanic voters?
I think it may make a difference. I've said for years now that the party that is viewed by the Hispanic community generally as being responsible for presenting and getting passed a comprehensive, sensible piece of legislation on immigration is going to be the party that benefits from it. It's going to be the party that controls the White House and both houses of Congress for years to come.
Let me shift gears for a minute. One other complex issue that's been in the news a lot lately is the drones, American drones, killing terrorism suspects overseas. And the real issue there has been particularly if those suspects are American, but they're active in terrorist activity. What is your interpretation? Are you in agreement with the Obama administration that is a right of this administration, that if they see someone, whether they're an American citizen or not, if they suspect someone of terrorist activity in Afghanistan or elsewhere around the globe, that they have the right to take them out?
Well, this is a complicated issue. I'll try to make it as simple as I can. From my perspective, you're talking about two decision points. The first is whether or not you, an American citizen, are an enemy combatant. The second decision point is to execute on the kill order. Now, once you get past the first decision point, that you are a legitimate enemy combatant, the president, in my judgment, as commander-in-chief, the particularly during a time of war, can execute on that kill order at any time he chooses, without any kind of interference, without having to consult with anyone else. I think to require the president to check in with someone after you are properly designated as an enemy combatant, I think is unconstitutional and hurts our national security.
Does that authority carry over domestically? If you have an enemy combatant on domestic soil, can he still execute a kill order?
Well, look, I think, again, I'm talking about a situation where you've got an enemy combatant who's an alien, who's an American citizen on foreign soil.
Okay.
I think things get much more complicated when you're talking about an American citizen here. So let's just talk about the scenario where I believe the administration's policy only applies to American targets overseas. After the first decision point, what I'm worried about is that there may not be 5 votes on the Supreme Court that would say the president has the absolute authority on his own to designate an American citizen as an enemy combatant for purposes of killing, because there have been other cases where the Supreme Court has held that the President of the United States does not have the authority on his own to designate an American citizen as an enemy combatant for purposes of simply detention. So if that's the case, then I would be worried if I were in the White House about saying the President has unilateral authority to do this. Now, I'm not suggesting that the President should get congressional authorization to support his action, but I will say that history shows that the court is much more deferential when both elected branches of government are acting as one. And so if Congress were to pass legislation which would outline the parameters that have to be met before an American citizen overseas could be designated as an American citizen, as an enemy combatant, then I think the President is in a stronger position to withstand any kind of court challenge.
Judge, thanks very much for being with us. I appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Former Attorney General of the United States, Alberto Gonzales.
It's the Tim Constantine Show.